Um, well, there are a couple of different times I got frustrated for different reasons. And like the first one was when my bonus daughter's mom got pregnant. And
Ooh.
this was like, I had been consistently praying for this. And then it was like, nope, not you.
Mm.
And so it was kind of, I was like, what? And like, I was sick for 2 days.
Wow.
Like I cried for 2 days. Like it was that bad.
Hey, girlfriends, welcome to another episode of Girlfriends and Goals. We're your hosts, Miosha.
And Samaria.
This podcast is a space where we'll talk about friendships, life goals, a little bit of pop culture, and all things womanhood.
Our top goal this year is to grow our podcast audience. So if you're new here or you're an avid listener of this podcast, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating, write a review, and be sure to share this episode with a girlfriend or two. All right, so before we get into today's episode, I do want to introduce our guests. We've had a guest on every week of the month of March, celebrating Women's History Month, and today is no different. So today we have Aleisha, who is a friend of mine. We actually have a mutual friend, and we've had a mutual friend for several years, but just physically met each other in 2019 and have remained in contact. So, Aleisha, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for being a part of the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right, we're going to jump into our first segment, which is called Girlfriend Check In. And today we're going to do a question from one of the Instagram pages that we follow. Her name is Nidra Tawab. And the question that we have is from her Spring Cleaning Your Mental Health. What are you learning most about yourself? And Aleisha, we'll start with you.
So for me, when this whole thing came about, I wasn't really sure how I was gonna handle being a stay-at-home mom because I was like, I need to work. That's I'm not used to that, but it really hasn't been that bad. So I learned that I can be okay with it. It's just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really not that bad because I kind of am finding ways to build a routine for myself each day. So it's not that bad.
Yeah. What was what made you like the most hesitant about like wanting to stay home? Was it that you would be bored or anything else?
That was part of it, but I'm used to working. So I'm like I need to be around other adults. Like it's I was like this is because I've done it before. I did it for like a year and I about went crazy. And so I was so just basing it off of that experience, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. But it really is it hasn't been that bad. And then I've started back working out, so that helps too. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Miosha, I'm going to kick it to you. What are you learning about yourself?
Yeah, so mine is, I guess, a little bit similar to Alicia in that I've learned that I can get used to almost anything. Almost is the key word. Um, I would always say that, oh, I'm not a morning person. I can't get up early. And I don't know, over the last, I would say 2 months, I've been pushing myself to get up earlier. I just find that now that I'm a mom, that's just kind of the best time for me to do things for myself, like work out, get other projects done. And sometimes I think we maybe put labels or expectations on ourselves before we actually try it out and try to be consistent at it.
Mm.
And I don't know, I just found that I can get used to it if I just one practice it, set a goal, a routine, and it's not that bad. So, note to self: before you label yourself as being X thing, at least try it out.
That's a really good message, especially at this time of year where we're at the end of quarter one and going into quarter two. And I feel like a lot of the reason why people might leave their New Year's resolutions behind is because they're like, oh, I'm just not good at XYZ. So I think that's a really good message. The thing that I'm learning about myself, which other people around me maybe have known this before, I got the news, but is that I really value being in control. And I'm learning not to be in every situation. Like I'm learning to state what I want in situations that I can't like fully control,
Mhm.
and just trust that the people who I'm around will take that into account. Or that things will just work out the way that they need to, as long as I communicate what it is that I desire, like my desired outcome. I'm learning to relinquish a little bit of that control. But yeah, I do value being in control quite a bit.
Yeah.
It makes me calmer, like, because I know I got me. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I know who I can depend on, and it's your girl. So that's what I'm learning about myself.
I can say as someone close to you, I could see that in you a little bit, but I can acknowledge it as from a place of knowing you can depend on you. When you have someone you like, oh, this person's got it. Even with me, I feel like you're willing to relinquish some control because you're like, oh, Miosha's dependable. She got it on certain things. And if I don't, I'll tell you.
Yeah, baby steps, see, I got to start from somewhere. Am I going to be the person who's just like, oh, and trust everybody with everything? Absolutely
No.
not. But people who I can trust, people who I think will listen to what I want and at least try
Mm-mm.
to implement it a little bit, those are the people who I think I can relinquish control to. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to get into today's topic, which, just to piggyback off of a discussion we had 2 episodes ago with Stacey Ann, we're discussing how a lot of times people think, oh, whenever I'm ready to get pregnant, it'll just happen for me. Especially, when it comes to certain cultures, it just seems like, oh, that's the norm. We're fertile, we're going to get pregnant, right? But the reality is that that's not the case for everybody. Sometimes there is a gap in between the time that someone might expect to have a child versus when they actually do. And so that's what we're talking about today. Aleisha has been so gracious to join us and share her story about her journey to conceiving. And so we're going to get into that and learn a little bit from her. All right, so I'm going to start it off, Aleisha, by just asking you, right? Kind of setting the scene here. You got married at what age?
24.
24. Okay.
Mhm.
And you had a bonus daughter. That's correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Gotcha. So was pregnancy at 24 like a priority at the beginning of your marriage?
Um, we didn't really give it a whole lot of thought. Like I always knew I wanted kids, but we didn't give it a whole lot of thought in the beginning because our main focus was my bonus daughter. So we didn't try to prevent it, but we didn't give it a whole lot of like thought.
So, around what time did you decide to possibly start trying for a child? And what led you to start thinking about having one?
It was probably like around the time when she was around 3 or 4. I think we was more like, okay, like we want, because I knew I wanted, in my mind, I knew anyway that I wanted to have my kids at least by 35. But that's not exactly working out. But because I wanted to be done by 35. But so I was like, yeah, we need to get this ball rolling or whatever. So yeah, it was about that time.
And
Yeah.
how old were you? So when she was 3 or 4, how old were you at that time?
Um,
So I'm making you do the math. My
like
bad.
yeah, 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. And how, if you don't mind me asking, how many children at that time did you envision or desire to have?
4 in
Okay,
addition
in
to her.
addition.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Yes. We
wow.
wanted 4.
Okay, big family.
It's a big family
Yeah.
now. I come from
Yeah.
a family of 4, and I guess that does seem like a lot in this day and time. Two
I
is
mean, with
Yeah.
the parents, that's 6 people. You need a minivan.
Not SUV.
Or,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yasha went straight to the mom car, like the stereotypical
Yeah.
mom
I was
car.
like, I'm not a minivan person.
Or what do they call those? Sprinters, the Mercedes
Yeah, the
Sprinters.
sprinters. I can
Those
do a
are nice.
sprinter.
seen one of
Yeah, no, those
those.
are nice. I can do sprinters.
Mhm.
Google's Mercedes Sprinter. Okay, so back to the topic. So what led you to like start thinking about it was that you wanted to have this number of kids and by a certain age.
Right.
And that's a really good age, actually.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go into my reasons for thinking that's a good age to stop having children, but I have some. Okay, so as once you decided to start, how long did it take you to like kind of get frustrated with the length of time that it was taking?
Well, there are a couple of different times I got frustrated for different reasons. And like the first one was when my bonus daughter's mom got pregnant.
Ooh.
And this was like, I had been consistently praying for this. And then it was like, nope, not you. And so it was kind of, I was like, what? And like, I was sick for 2 days. Like,
Wow.
like I cried for 2 days. Like it was that bad. Because I didn't understand. And like nobody, like my husband didn't understand because he was like, how you mad at somebody? I was like, I'm not mad at her. I was like, I don't understand. So
Yeah.
it's frustrating because I've been praying for this. And then it's like, but nah, though.
Yeah. You just want it to be your turn.
Yeah.
Those are definitely normal emotions and feelings. So at that point, would you say it had been a couple of years or a few months once you were like, oh, we feel like it should have happened by now?
Yeah, it was probably, I think at that point, maybe about a year or so.
Okay. And you said that was the first time. So do you wish it like the next time?
Well, then the next time it was a little different because I was actually in a situation where I was having like pseudo signs, like pseudo symptoms. And so I was literally like, I felt nauseous and I was feeling like tenderness of the breast and all of that stuff. And so like because those are things you hear and you look up, you like, those are the signs. So I was like, oh, this could be it. This might be it. And so I was like, okay, I was telling myself I'm not gonna get excited, but you're thinking like, this could be it, right?
Mhm.
So like I remember going to I made an appointment to go see my doctor, and she was like, well, we can check you out and everything, and we can actually give you the test and see just to be sure. And I was like, yeah, do that. And we went through the whole checkup, and then I waited for the test, and she came back and she was like, you're not pregnant. And I was like, and again, I went and sat in my car and I cried because it was like heartbreaking because I was like, I felt all the symptoms. And so I was like, what? And then I actually Googled, I went and looked that up, and that's a thing. And I'm like, that's a cruel joke. Like to have pseudo symptoms and to take the test, and it's like, no. And so yeah.
Wow.
I have a kind of a follow-up question. So when you went to see your doctor, had you taken like an at-home test, or you were just like, I'm gonna wait, and find out at the doctor?
I had taken one, but I was like, maybe mine wasn't right.
Gotcha.
I was like holding out hope.
No,
Yeah, because at home, you don't necessarily always trust it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I need to go see a doctor.
Right. The last year, but like right before I got pregnant, that was the hardest year. Okay. And that was I would wake up in the middle of the night crying because I took so many tests, because it was like every time my cycle would be off or it's be late, and I'd be like, what is it or whatever, and I go get the test, and then it's like a no and a no and a no. So and it was like, and at one point, like I remember like fussing at God because I was like, I get it, it's gonna be a great testimony, woohoo, whatever. But why me? I don't, but I mean, like I was, and like my husband would wake up to me like crying my eyes out, And he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm fine." But it got really bad. Like, um, I think like for like 3 months.
Mm.
And that was 2020.
Okay.
Like August, September, October, I was a complete mess. And I didn't even know, like I ended up talking to Roz actually about it. She was like, "You were in a depression." Like I didn't even know what it was. I just knew I was like, people couldn't say anything to me. I would just fall apart. And it got really bad towards the
Yeah.
end.
I can only imagine because the time that you and I met was 2019. And like we had like a conversation about it, and like it stuck with me. Like you know how you talk to people and you know they might say something and it's like, oh man, you know, I'm gonna pray for you, or you know, I'll definitely keep you in my thoughts. But like that was something that actually stuck with me. Like, you know, like I would, for I think from that day to the time that you actually like sent me the invitation for the gender reveal, like it was something that was constantly on my mind.
Mhm.
And so like you talking about like August, September, October 2020, that would have been a year from the time that we met. So just like imagining that length of time between how you felt when we had that conversation to when it, you know, actually happened is it's heartbreaking to me. And like I said, you're a friend of a friend, so we're not like besties or anything like
Yeah.
that, but I feel like we always have a good time when we're around each other.
Yeah.
And so I think the fact that we have someone who we're both close to just made me feel like, oh, this is like someone who I have to like pray for and have to think about and things like that. So
And I
yeah.
appreciated those texts too. When you
Yeah, girl, no problem.
During the time when, things were frustrating and you were trying, do you feel like the doctors were comforting to you or encouraging? Did they recommend anything for you to try? What were those conversations like with your doctors during that time?
So earlier on, I had been diagnosed with PCOS, so I knew that it would be difficult, but they were like, it's not impossible to conceive. And then, like after, no, that was before. I know in 2017 I had a procedure done because they said I had polyps that I had to get removed, and so I had that done. And then after that, they was like, that should make it easier. And then, of course, after the um, whole pseudo symptom deal, then she started suggesting like that I try to lose weight because she was saying that there were women that she knew who just lost the weight and then end up getting pregnant. And so that was like the next plan of action.
Was there because I think I knew you around this time. Was there anything that you were like any specific like plan that you were using?
When 2019 came in, and I was like, I was really sick of feeling heavy. And I was like, I really got to get this off. And so that's actually when my husband was scouring the internet trying to find a diet that would work for me because he knew I wouldn't give up my chocolate. And so that's that's how keto came into play because you could still have your chocolate and stuff with that. So yeah, we started
Okay.
doing keto in 2019.
Okay, I didn't know that about keto. I thought it was
Mhm.
like anything sweet because you can't have fruit, right?
It's the carbs.
It's certain fruit that you can't
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So during the time that, you're trying your different diets and you're trying to conceive, did you feel any pressure from people around you? Like, like when people first get married, they're always getting asked the question of, well, oh, when are the babies coming? Are you having
Mhm.
kids? Like what were those conversations like? And if you don't mind sharing some of your responses, because I'm always interested to hear how people respond to that question because I don't know about you. For me, I understand it's a very normal, natural question, but I really don't like when I'm asked that question or when other people ask other
Right.
people that question
It's
around me.
very invasive.
It
Um, I didn't like it. There were people like every time it was like, y'all ain't had no kids yet? Y'all don't want kids? I was like, yeah, we want kids. It just hasn't happened yet. And I know a couple of times I did take to social media and to just do like a TBA. And I was like, and I put up like the little Medea thing with the gun, like, ask me that one more time. I was like, it's ridiculous. And it's really nobody's business what goes on in my bedroom. So I was like, please, because that's very rude.
It
But
is.
Yes.
And it, like, realistically, what can they do other than pray for you, which is
right,
great, which I need you to
right,
be praying for me anyways,
right.
regardless of you knowing that information. But yeah, it's very invasive. And I understand, depending on the culture, the age of the
Yeah.
person, I understand that it is very normal, but I think every woman should just envision themselves on the other side of that, being asked that question.
Because I don't think they mean it in a bad way, but it's not, they don't think about it before they say it. Because then it's like, what you waiting on? Nothing. I'm not, we're not waiting at all, actually. I'm like, I don't know. What do you want me to say? We're having sex every night. I don't know. What do you want to know?
Right. How much detail?
And then I think it oversimplifies the situation. Even if people have felt like, oh, it's easy, depending on your faith, it's like we as humans can't just snap our fingers and make ourselves pregnant.
Right.
This is a miracle that's happening.
Yeah, people can be really insensitive. An old church friend of mine recently posted that they're expecting, and one of the things that she said that I loved in her like caption when she made the announcement was, "Think before you comment," because I don't want to see anybody saying, "Oh, it's about time." Everybody's journey is different, and like the fact that she said that, I'm like, yes, girl, let these people know, because there's always somebody who comes in like, oh, it's about time, or who's always concerned about, someone else's timeline. So I feel like I wish I had more questions around like the PCOS and how that impacted, but I don't. But is there anything that you wanted to share about like that journey and kind of the toll that it took on you?
I didn't really, the only thing I knew is that I had it. I didn't really know a whole lot about it. And actually until recently, it's like after we had done keto and because we started like in May of 2019, and from May to December, I had lost like 30 pounds. And then afterwards, I was looking it up, and it was saying that that's actually, keto is a diet they recommend for women who have PCOS. And I was like, really?
Oh, wow.
So like all this time, I was like, so that's something I could have been doing all this time. Like I didn't know.
Okay, wow. I didn't know that.
So,
I only know one other person who at least has openly shared it, So I know like the things that she's experienced as a result of it. But back to like the pregnancy types of questions. When did you find out that you were expecting, and what was your reaction?
I actually found out the day after my birthday, last year. And I was scared because we had just had like I did a Zoom birthday thing. And so we had like food and everybody had like a glass of wine. And so I was like, oh crap, when I found out, but I was like, I was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found out and I was like, I literally, when I did the test and before I walked out, I saw it already moving. I was like, wait, what? And I was like, I'm not gonna look yet. I'm not gonna look. I just walked out and I waited for my time to go off and I went back and I was like, I just looked at and I went back in my room and just fell on the floor and just cried and like just like thanking God. But it was very emotional.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was your husband's reaction?
So actually he was out on the road. So I didn't tell him until he got home that night because I called him because I was so excited, but then I was like, I don't want to tell him this over the phone.
Yeah.
So he was talking. I didn't know. I don't remember what he was saying because I was just in my own head. I was like, yeah. And I was like, because I was going back and forth, like, am I gonna tell him this right now? Or like I was trying to see if I was gonna interject. But then at the same time, it was almost time for the Zoom Bible study we have with our church. So I was like, well, it's about 7:00. So I'm just gonna jump on this Zoom. So I ended up not telling him. But when he got home, I still didn't tell him. I just showed him the test. And he was like, he was like, you can't wait to show me. You can't wait. I was like, no.
Was it a digital test or one of the ones with the lines?
It was the one with the line from the Dollar Tree.
Yeah. Because those lines be tricky.
Yeah, they do. But I was like, I had spent so much money. Like, I was like, look, because I had a family member tell me, she was like, girl, the ones at Dollar Tree are the same ones they have in the doctor's office. So just get those. And
Yeah.
so
Where I guess where were you like emotionally at this point? Was it so I know that you mentioned, oh, we weren't doing anything to prevent it, but at this point, where were you emotionally? Were you in a place where you were like, oh, every day I'm still like hopeful for this? Or were you kind of like, whatever, if it happens, it happens? Where were you?
actually, like at the end of the year, 2020, I was like, because I had just had another kind of episode, and I was like, if I take the test and it's negative, I'm just gonna go ahead and start preparing for the fertility treatments because I had already discussed that with my doctor. And so I was like, if it's negative, then I'll just make the appointment for the new year and start that up. But yeah, I didn't get to that. So
Got you.
Yes.
When's your birthday?
Yeah.
Because I know you said it was after your birthday.
Yeah, February the 9th.
Okay.
So
I thought
literally
so.
the next day. And because what was happening, I was feeling like that I was cramping. And I was like, normally that means my cycle's gonna start. And it kept happening, but there was no cycle. So I was like, because every time it comes, I said, well, this is finna come. And like for me, we call my cycle Alana. So I was like, well, Alana's she coming. But then she never came. So I was like, okay. So I called my doctor's office and I was like, I think that was after I took the test. Because after that kept happening, I was like, well, let me just go. Because I actually bought the test so I can rule pregnancy out. I was like, I'm just going to take the test just so I can rule it out and see what's going on with my body. Because I was already sure that wasn't it. So I was like, I'm just going to get this test so I can just be sure that that's not it and then move forward. And yeah, so that it actually was that. So, but after that happened, and I called my doctor and she was like, yeah, well, congratulations, you're pregnant.
Wow.
And
Wow. So we mentioned earlier how you did discuss a little bit with Samaria about you being on your journey to conceive, I believe, that Samaria was aware of it. Was this something that you openly shared with other people around you, like in your immediate and extended family or friends? Do you feel like you were maybe an open book at that time, or were you more selective about who you were sharing your journey with?
I was kind of selective. I didn't really talk to a whole lot of people about it.
Okay.
Just people who are like kind of in my inner circle and next to my inner circle. Like I didn't talk about it a lot.
Yeah. Once you found out that you were pregnant, though, what was that like for you? Were you like, hey, everyone, I'm pregnant? Or did you feel the need to conceal the fact that you were pregnant, being that it had been a bit of a journey to get there?
Yeah, well, like we literally only told family, like close family at that. Well, close family and friends that were family. And so like, and that was like within the first month, I think that's all we told. And then I was like, nobody post to Facebook. Like, I didn't want it on there. Yeah, I was like, I don't want it. I just kind of, because it was kind of precious to me because it had taken as long. I just wanted to protect the news like a little more, a little longer. So yeah, I didn't want that out. I think we waited until, well, I know I purposely didn't post any pictures until after he was born. So, and the rest of the family found out during the gender reveal, I think, around that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't. No, I was like, I'm not telling anybody. I just wanted to keep it inside.
You did a great job with that.
I had people like in my class. They was like, "So how you just gonna pop out with a whole baby? Like, when were you even pregnant?"
Yeah.
I was like, I was just, and it helps that I don't live in my same hometown anymore, because then everybody would have known. But
yeah, I think even for women who have a different experience on their journey to conceive, especially those earlier months. And I think unless you're in it, you don't know how open you'll be when you're pregnant until you're pregnant, I think. Until you're in it, because you still may feel the need to keep it close to home.
Yeah, because I was nervous, like, because then I was watching, at that time I was deep in the Black Love series, and I was watching, they like one of the couples was talking about how they got all the way to the room and they had the baby and then they lost the baby, and I was like, and I was like, oh, and I was like, no, you know what, God not gonna play me like that. He's not gonna play me. I was like, I don't wait too long. I was like, he's not gonna play me like that. So I was like rebuking all that stuff. But there was another thing, is I didn't want to tell people, and then I ended up losing the baby. And then so I was like, then I'll have to go back and retract everything. And I just,
that's when your prayers turn from, oh God, please let this be, the God, you better not. You better not. Don't you dare.
Don't do it.
But I feel like when you're pregnant and you're like watching videos on YouTube, it just sends you down a rabbit hole of situations and things that don't have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So
I'm not even pregnant. I'm already down those rabbit holes. I'm like, oh, everything.
Like I was super nervous about the epidural, like, because people were like, oh, if you move, you're gonna be paralyzed. And I was like, what? And and so I was super nervous. Like I asked my doctor, I was like, okay, so, because she was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just nervous about this epidural. She's like, well, you can take other medicines, but they're not as strong. And I was like, well, no, I don't know. But she was like, well, you have plenty of time. You don't have to decide now, because it's like 3 months in. She was like, you don't have to decide today. But I was struggling. I was like, oh, I don't know. But it wasn't that bad. And I think I have a high tolerance for pain that I didn't calculate that in at the time. But it wasn't that bad. It literally was like a little pinch in my back.
Oh yeah, once you have that versus contractions, a little pinch is nothing.
Nothing. It was nothing.
So you gave birth during the pandemic still. Was it? I think it was after vaccines still, right? Like after people could get vaccines.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm wondering, last week we had Aleisha and a couple of other ladies like share their experience, like having babies during a pandemic. And so I'm wondering like what your birth story was kind of like.
Well, it changed like in a matter of months, because everything was getting better. So they was like opening up the guidelines for who they was allowing in the delivery room. Because they was like, it went from one person, and it was like, well, now we'll let 2 people. But then by the time September came around, it was like back to 1, because it was ramping up again. And so he was like, okay, so it was just gonna be me and my husband. And my mom got excited because she thought she was gonna be in. And then it was like, no, just one person. She was like, oh, okay. And even when I went in there, like we had to keep our mask on in the room until, well, like they tested me, and I had to wait. They said 2 hours, but I waited like all night for them to bring the test results back. They were like, once they brought my test results back that I was good, then they was like, I could remove my mask, but they would still wear theirs. But unless I can remove mine, because it would be hard to
Mhm.
be breathing and doing all that with the mask on. So, but it was definitely was weird.
It's weird. And the other question that I had was, you talked about like the fears that you had about, you know, losing the baby and like things that could happen along the way during the pregnancy. As are those still fears that you have like going forward with pregnancies that by the will of God, like will come in the future?
No, not really. The only thing now was that because she was like, well, just try not to get pregnant like within the first 6 months after you just had a baby because of all the complications that could come. So I was nervous about that because I was like, trying to make sure I'm popping those birth control pills because I'm like, I don't want to put myself or our child in danger by like trying to get pregnant too soon. So that's the only, but other than that, no, I'm more relaxed about it now
Good.
that I've gone through it.
I'm glad. And if you want to share, like, what are your favorite things about being a mom? I know it hasn't been a year yet.
No,
It's just been like
he just turned 5 months, like
5 months.
a
Okay.
week ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
little baby.
Yeah. So like what things are you enjoying about motherhood? What are things that like surprise you about motherhood?
Um, he was very um, I don't know how to describe it, like advanced. Like, which I said like something about the pandemic babies. I don't know.
Built
Like,
different.
yeah, he literally been trying to sit up since he was 3 weeks old. Like he's like trying to hold his head up. And like
Oh,
I took a picture of him and they was like, is he sitting up by himself? I was like, yeah. He was like propped up on the bobby pillow. Like I was like, I don't know, but he's been teething since he was 2 months. Like no teeth
what?
yet, but he was doing it like that thing. And we had to get him teething toys. And I was like, but what in the world? Because like according to the Googles, this is not supposed to be happening. He was like trying to hold his bottle. I'm like, you're not supposed to do this till 6 months. You're 3 months early, sir. I need you to reel this in. So it's
He said, I'm making room for my sibling.
that's what they keep saying. It was like he trying to make room for the rest of them. I was like, I guess so, because he's
Oh,
very advanced.
oh,
But
so sweet.
I like the morning cuddles. I like when he first wake up because he's in when I pick him up, he's trying to stretch his body out and he cuddles in. So I like that. I enjoy those.
Oh, that's so precious. It really is. Like I wasn't expecting the snuggles.
Mhm.
They're really nice because they're genuine snuggles. Because you don't
Mhm.
ask for them. They just like, mommy.
Yes.
You know what made me laugh was because Google has been something that you brought up a few times in this
Yeah.
conversation. And I remember the time when we like physically met for the first time, you had seen a praying mantis on your window. And you were,
Yeah.
so I immediately Googled it.
Yeah.
And like, she had like screenshots of everything that Google said about a praying mantis. I was like, okay, this is detailed, but maybe she's just into that. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm into research and stuff. And I don't know. It's a habit. Like if somebody is, I use it all the time. Like we're into like sports here. So I'll be like, um, basketball game tonight. Google, like see what games are playing, what channels. I don't know. It's a habit.
Just to circle back just a little bit, we touched on how, people will ask questions about your timeline as far as conceiving. Do you think that, are there any things that you wish that people would stop saying to women, married women, whether they have kids or they don't, in regarding pregnancy?
Just like be more thoughtful in the way you approach people because you don't know where they're at, like mentally, emotionally, like you don't know. And some of those things can like set people off, like and send them spiraling. And you can like unknowingly cause like all type of things. So, just being more thoughtful in the way that you approach people, because a lot of that stuff is unnecessary to ask. You don't need to know when they're getting started. I mean, that's none of your business. So, just being more thoughtful.
Have you had anyone start asking you, so when are we getting the next kid?
I don't think so. I don't think, not yet. And hopefully they won't, because that's like, I was very vocal about about a lot of things leading up to it, because I was just like, I'm not about this. And a lot of people's like, yeah, that's right. But hopefully they got the message, because I'm not good with, I can hold my tongue, but then my face does things. So yeah, hopefully they don't ask me.
Yeah, I think it's also insensitive, even if a person has just had a child and they've just given birth, and people are already like, oh, when's the next one coming? And I feel like when it's so soon, it's very dismissive of the experience that they just went through to bring a whole child into this world, let alone like the 4th trimester of breastfeeding, healing. And they're already like, oh yeah, you just went through that, but we want to know what's coming next. It's somewhat never ending. And I know that they don't mean any harm by it, but it applies when you don't have a kid. And then even once you've had one, people are already ready for you to be on to the next. It's like, can I enjoy this beautiful blessing that I have in front of me before you put me to task again?
Right. And now they have asked me like, so how many more y'all want? Or like they said like, or do y'all plan on having, because like, I guess they thought I was going to say no after my first one. And they was like, you not gonna have no more, are you? And I was like, well, yeah, actually we still want more. And
what kind of question is that?
They was like, oh, you still, oh, okay then. I was like, yeah, our plans didn't change just because we just had one. I was like, it actually wasn't a hard time for me. So, because they thought, I guess they thought it would be rough based on their experience, I guess. But I was like, I had the epidural. I was fine. So
it worked.
And the pregnancy was like smooth as well.
Yeah, well, there was something like it was smooth for the most part, but there are things like people don't tell you that like it does a lot to your body. Not just the morning sickness and stuff. That's like the basic stuff. That's and easy. I didn't even have that. Which I'm thankful for. But like I got carpal tunnel in my, well, they said carpal tunnel syndrome in my left hand, which is the hand I write with. So like for a whole, and I think that came like in June. So from June to October, I was writing everything with my right hand. Because I could not use, like I lost use of my left hand. It hurt so bad. That, and then I lost feeling in my, you know what? It was my whole left side. Left side, my left leg, like from right above my knee up, like I lost feeling. And it happened. I was standing up one day and I was like, I can't feel my leg. I was like, my leg just went to sleep. And apparently my doctor was like, well, yeah, that's from the baby leaning on that nerve. And my husband liked to make a joke. He's like, see, I'm gonna tell the baby, he already was getting on your nerves when he came out.
Literally.
But yeah, and that feeling still has not came back, by the way. But in my leg, I do have use of my left hand now, but yeah, that feeling in my leg is still numb, and that's fine.
Wow.
So I guess that's just casualty.
Yeah. And if the audience hasn't already, make sure you go back to listen to our last episode, Pregnancy, where they don't tell you. We had a great conversation just discussing the openness of women during pregnancy and the lack thereof sometimes. So make sure y'all go check that out.
Yeah. And kind of just the last thing to sum it up that I want to ask you, you've talked about your faith a lot. So I just, for other women who are on their journey currently, right, to conceive, and they find a gap between when they started trying and when the baby is going to come. Like, what are some ways that you navigated those emotions?
For me, since I write a lot, I kind of focused all of that energy into my books and just trying to like during that time I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of trying to just put out my books to keep my mind off of that what was going on. So I kind of got real not busy, but just I kept myself occupied just by putting out books and promoting them and stuff like that. Gotcha. So that was my thing, because it took my mind off of, I wasn't just sitting there idly thinking about being pregnant and all of that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And we'll if you have a link for the books, we'll include that in the show notes as well. But yeah, Yosha, did you have any other questions? So
No.
what was like the time frame, the number of years? So you said from 27 to you're 33 now?
I just turned 34 in February.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I was close.
but it was literally though, I mean, because we was like, it's literally a 9-year, because like I said, we always wanted kids the whole time. We just never, because we never tried to prevent it. We just weren't actively trying until then. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Aleisha. You have such like a calm like a calm tone and spirit. So it's been really nice having you. And to our audience, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of the Girlfriends and Goals podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Girlfriends and Goals Podcast, where we'll continue this conversation over the next week. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do that now. Don't forget to rate, review, and share. Until next time, bye.
Bye.